What would you risk for a chance at true love, especially when everything you once believed about love is turned upside down? Welcome to Happiness of Love, your daily dose of K-dramas. Get ready to fall in love with unforgettable stories. Can you tell us where are you listening from? Emma Choi stood at the edge of the gala venue, her heart racing as she watched the sea of elegantly dressed attendees effortlessly mingle under the grand chandeliers, their laughter echoing through the opulent hall. This was her moment, the opportunity to showcase her custom necklace, a delicate piece that reflected her dreams and struggles as a burgeoning jewelry designer. She took a deep breath and adjusted her grip on the velvet-lined box, the weight of her aspirations palpable in the air. Just as she was about to step forward, an unexpected jolt knocked the breath from her lungs. Turning sharply, she collided with a tall figure, causing her nerves to unravel. Red wine cascaded from her trembling hand and splashed across his crisp white shirt, the deep crimson staining the fabric as mortification swept over her like a tidal wave. Ethan Kim, the aloof heir to the Kim group, stood before her, his piercing gaze now narrowed in disbelief. She felt a rush of embarrassment clawing at her chest, desperate to disappear as quickly as the liquid pooling on his shirt. Ethan's expression shifted from surprise to irritation, his reputation as a ruthless businessman and eternally single bachelor sullied by the accidental mishap. He remained poised as Emma attempted to sputter an apology, her cheeks flushed with color, while she simultaneously wished she could take back the moment that had just derailed her carefully constructed plans. Instead of pity or annoyance, she found herself staring into the deep, stormy depths of his eyes, where an unusual spark of curiosity flickered. It was brief, like a fleeting touch, but in that charged moment, something shifted. Later that evening, despite the unfortunate encounter, Emma found herself blasted across social media, her photograph with Ethan splashed across headlines, sensationalizing their unexpected connection. The swirling rumors insinuated that the two were more than just a chance meeting, causing her stomach to twist with dread and confusion. She couldn't escape this chaos that threatened to crush her dreams further under the weight of a fabricated romance. Underneath the glitz of high society, she could hear the whispers of judgment. She was out of place, a mere blip on the radar of wealth and glamour. Ethan, careless and desperate to reconstruct his tarnished image, seized the opportunity that had fallen into his lap. The moment he spotted Emma across the crowded ballroom, he approached her, his demeanor shifting from aloof heir to cunning entrepreneur, his voice low and strategic, as if they were about to seal a business deal. He proposed an audacious arrangement. She would play the role of his fiancée for 6 months, a mutually beneficial contract where she would gain the financial backing she desperately needed to launch her brand, and in return, he could salvage his reputation from the brash label of playboy. Emma knew she should refuse, her instincts flashing with warning signals. But the crushing weight of her financial struggles loomed large in her mind, drowning out her initial resistance. Her world was an intricate web of dreams and debts, and here stood a proposal that could very well turn it all around. So, despite the risks and her better judgment, she found herself nodding, sealing the arrangement with the pen in her hand, unaware that this agreement would bind them in ways neither could foresee. As she sighed, lifeless and resigned, she discovered the thrilling chaos of their lives would intertwine in an unexpected dance. For beneath the glittering facade of wealth and decorum, sparks of tension crackled between them, hinting at a deeper connection that would challenge both their hearts and their haughty surroundings. In their initial clash, Emma had bumped into more than just the heir of a financial empire. She had stepped into an unforeseen adventure where the shimmering lights of soul glimmered with uncharted possibilities, and love waited just beyond the horizon, cloaked in uncertainty. Emma took a deep breath as she signed the contract, her heart racing, knowing this was her only shot at financial stability. With each stroke of her pen, she felt both hope and trepidation intertwining in her chest, the sharp scent of fresh ink mingling with the faint aroma of jasmine from the garden outside Ethan's estate. She moved into the opulent mansion, its grandiose architecture and luxurious decor overwhelming her senses. The marble floors gleamed under the chandeliers, casting warm hues that highlighted the paintings lining the walls, yet in the confines of the sprawling estate, she felt a loneliness that seemed to echo through the hallways. Almost immediately, she found herself face to face with Madame Yuna, Ethan's mother, who scrutinized her with a steel gaze that chilled Emma to the core. Underneath the carefully polished exterior of Madame Yuna lay an iron will, and as she welcomed Emma with a saccharine smile, Emma could sense the underlying hostility. "You're quite fortunate to be in this position," Madame Yuna remarked, her tone dripping with condescension. Emma nodded stiffly, feeling the weight of expectation on her shoulders. As Ethan ushered Emma into his world of exclusive dinners and charity galas, she soon discovered that the sparkling jewels adorning the socialites around her only accentuated the stark contrast between their lives. In the midst of laughter, clinking glasses, and self-indulgent chatter, Emma felt like an outsider, an imposter amidst the glamorous elite. During the first event they attended together, a high-profile gala under the stars, Emma watched as couples twirled gracefully on the dance floor, while she struggled to navigate the rigid social dynamics surrounding her. Ethan, usually aloof and reserved, started to engage more. It was odd yet captivating. In a moment of unguarded honesty, he revealed to her that his family's expectations felt like chains, binding him to a life he didn't want. Emma listened intently, her cheeks flushed from the warmth of his presence, the gentle brush of their hands sending shivers that defied the boundaries of their contractual agreement. However, those fleeting moments became increasingly strained under the strict rules they had set: no emotional involvement, no public embarrassment, and absolute discretion, all while being compelled to appear affectionate for the cameras. Every loving glance and shared laugh felt precariously like stepping on a tightrope, a mix of genuine connection and performance art. The way Ethan's dark eyes lit up when she challenged him pushed her to the edge of their agreement. He found her straightforwardness refreshing, a far cry from the sycophantic smiles of his usual companions. Yet, the harder they tried to maintain the illusion, the more blurred the lines became, and Emma began questioning the limitations of their initial arrangement. She found herself standing in front of the mirror each morning, struggling to balance the reflection of the confident jeweler she aspired to be against the uncertain guise of a fiancé she learned to adopt. Each gala became a battlefield filled with patronizing whispers and disapproving glances from Madame Una and the socialites who deemed her unworthy. The constant scrutiny and judgment weighed heavily on Emma, yet she refused to let it break her spirit. "I belong here just as much as they do," she reminded herself, even as the lavish surroundings threatened to suffocate her self-worth. Despite the tension simmering beneath the surface, Ethan found himself drawn to her resilience. He realized in those crowded rooms filled with opulence and pretension that Emma's boldness was what captivated him more than any superficial charm. On one particularly steamy summer evening during an extravagant cocktail party on the terrace, Emma unexpectedly caught Ethan's gaze just as he ran a hand through his hair, the weight of their charade creeping into every glance they exchanged. Under the swirling lights that dimmed as dusk settled, she felt a rush of emotion surge forward, and amidst the laughter and clinking of glasses, their eyes locked, igniting a tension that buzzed charged in the air. She felt her heart race, yet all at once, she instinctively knew things were changing between them. Something inside her was starting to shift, breaking free from the confines of the contract as Ethan leaned closer, an unspoken connection building between them. Each day they navigated complexities of their roles. Emma found herself wrestling with the complexity of her feelings, wanting more yet fearing the consequences. As they smiled for the cameras, pretending to be the perfect couple, Emma couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, the line between obligation and genuine affection was beginning to blur, and they were both helplessly tangled in the web of their own making. As the weeks passed, the tension between Ethan and Emma evolved, subtly shifting from irritation to a growing curiosity about one another. Emma's determination and authenticity in a world that reeked of pretense had begun to intrigue Ethan, a man so used to being surrounded by sycophants and those vying for his wealth that Emma's feistiness became a refreshing breath of air. On several occasions, during gala events or charity functions, he found himself captivated by her as she boldly conversed with socialites who viewed her as an outsider. She had no intention of conforming to their lofty expectations, and in that rebellious flair, Ethan found himself unexpectedly drawn to her spirit. He noticed how her eyes would light up when discussing her passion for jewelry design and how she navigated through the shallowness of high society with the grace of someone who had faced real struggles in life. He once commented on her boldness, saying that it was a shame she had to be wearing an engagement ring while doing it. One night, the air thick with elegance and anticipation, the duo attended a high-profile charity gala donned in their finest attire surrounded by flickering chandeliers and flourishing decorations that adorned the lavish venue. Lush florals filled the space with fragrance, mingling with the subtle scent of designer perfumes. Cameras flashed in rapid succession as the elite mingled, gossiping and vying for the attention of both the media and their powerful peers. It was at this gala that their pretense was put to the ultimate test, ever under the watchful eye of the public and a particularly insistent journalist who seemed intent on uncovering the truth. As questions about their relationship began to whirl around them like a tornado of speculation, Ethan felt something shift within him, that familiar protective instinct rising as the journalist probed deeper, pushing toward a breakthrough headline. Caught off guard by the persistent inquiry, Ethan looked at Emma, who stood beside him, her expression one of defiance drowned in confusion. Without thinking, or caring about the swirling cameras capturing every moment, he leaned in impulsively and pressed his lips against hers in a bold kiss that silenced the media frenzy surrounding them. It was a brief encounter, yet it struck deeper than either of them would care to admit. In that moment, beneath the brilliance of the flashing bulbs and a gallery of high society faces momentarily frozen in shock, the kiss transformed from a simple act of bravado into something layered with unspoken feelings. It was an act meant to convey a fabricated affection, yet the lingering sweetness of it seeped into every part of Emma's being, stirring something within her that she thought she had shut away. As they pulled apart, Ethan's eyes flickered with a blend of surprise and an electrifying uncertainty that coursed between them, leaving both of them gasping for air in more ways than one. In the aftermath, as they mingled around the event, the initial awkwardness began to dissipate, replaced with an unspoken understanding that something had shifted between them, yet undeniable barriers remained, as the lines between the professional contract and personal emotions began to blur. Emma began to question her feelings, her heart racing uncontrollably whenever she found Ethan's gaze lingering on her longer than necessary, and she wondered whether the warmth in his eyes was genuine or merely part of their public display. Meanwhile, news of their unexpected engagement rippled through society like wildfire, attracting attention both fervently supportive and viciously hostile. Just when Emma thought she could manage this new level of complexity, the universe decided to intervene further. As if on cue, and completely disrupting the newfound peace, Ryan Park emerged unexpectedly in Seoul, returning from a business endeavor that had taken him overseas. He was everything Emma had once wanted and more: charming, suave, and all too aware of how captivating he had once been in her life. Upon seeing Ethan's name plastered beside hers in the headlines, his jaw clenched, and a harsh realization struck him. This was not just an ex-girlfriend, Emma was entangled in a world that only heightened her allure. Determined to reclaim what he had lost, Ryan sought her out, hoping that he could reconnect with her before it got too complicated. No longer with the conviction that marrying for financial gain had been the right choice, he approached Emma, rekindling feelings she thought she had buried under layers of hurt and disbelief. In the midst of their heated history now juxtaposed against her growing connection with Ethan, Emma found herself standing at the crossroads of her emotions. The close-knit moments and lingering glances shared between her and Ethan flickered through her mind while Ryan's familiar charm beckoned her toward a comfort she almost recognized. As Ethan grappled with his jealousy watching Ryan re-enter Emma's life, an internal conflict brewed. The strong-willed jewelry designer found herself torn between the stability of her past and the exhilarating unpredictability of her burgeoning feelings toward the man she was still supposed to regard as her fake fiancé. With the weeks rolling on and the whirlwind of gala events blurring into a jarring routine, Emma found herself slipping deeper into a role she had never intended to play. Each extravagant occasion was a test, a stage where she balanced between elegance and vulnerability, holding herself together amidst the dazzling lights and scrutinizing eyes of high society. Yet, the ever-watchful gaze of Ryan Park loomed larger with every passing event, a familiar shadow that stirred remnants of a past she thought she had buried. Emma had always believed that she had moved on from him, the boy who had promised her the world yet traded their love for financial security. Now, with Ryan's return as a self-assured, polished businessman, those memories clang like distant bells of her broken heart. He approached her during a lavish cocktail party, the brilliant chandeliers casting a warm glow, but all she could see was the icy detachment of his earlier departure, a betrayal that now felt achingly raw as he asserted himself with an air of regret, claiming that he had belatedly realized how significant she was to him. In the midst of laughter and clinking glasses, Emma felt the rumble of emotions battling within her. She responded by reminding him that his choices had hurt her beyond repair, yet guilt was a persistent companion as his words dug into her resolve. Meanwhile, Ethan, sensing the shift in the air as Ryan settled closer to Emma, felt a surge of protectiveness he tried to suppress. He had promised Emma that their relationship was merely contractual, a facade built on mutual need, yet every time Ryan spoke to her, that assurance felt more like fading ink on paper. Ethan had the reputation of being cold and calculating, traits that were now clashing with a stirring jealousy he had never anticipated. He watched as Emma was drawn into a conversation, her demeanor shifting, eyes sparkling with a mix of curiosity and apprehension at the sight of Ryan's earnest expression. Ethan was struck by how effortlessly they shared a moment that felt so intimately familiar, a stark reminder of everything he hadn't allowed himself to feel. Yet, pushing his feelings aside, he interjected, his voice surprising even himself with its possessive edge as he spoke, declaring that they needed to move on from their pasts and focus on their shared future. Emma blinked at the tension crackling between the two men, caught in an uncomfortable web of loyalty, betrayal, and burgeoning emotions. Ryan was articulate, his words painting a picture of remorse that shaded her heart, while Ethan's fierce commitment to their pretend relationship rattled her foundations. She had entered into this arrangement seeking financial stability, but as the nights grew longer and filled with stolen glances and lingering touches that seemed to set the air ablaze between her and Ethan, a deeper connection began to fester even as they clashed. With Madame Yuna's unyielding scrutiny brewing in the background, convinced that Emma was a threat clad in ignorance and ambition, the pressure mounted dangerously. In her relentless pursuit of exposing Emma's so-called hidden background, Yuna became a storm brewing on the horizon, her icy demeanor spreading chill across the gatherings where Emma was expected to shine. Emma's resolve was tested not only by Ryan's persistent attempts at rekindling old flames but also by Ethan's apparent nonchalance masking his own turbulent feelings. The nights grew more complicated when the cameras were off, moments peppered with laughter mixed with tension, their conversations oscillating between playful barbs and unexpected confessions. Ethan's protective instincts emerged at unexpected times, making Emma question if his own growing affections were blurring their clear boundaries, as he was compelled to shield her from harsh reporters who clawed for stories and tales of scandal. Each small act of kindness, shielding her from the glaring lights and ushering her away from prying eyes, painted a picture that was becoming increasingly complex, blurring the lines between pretense and authenticity. It became maddeningly confusing, with stolen moments in the shadows of gala parties feeling more genuine than the elaborate play they were performing on grand stages. During these private interludes, their chemistry crackled like electricity. Ethan's touch lingered a moment longer than necessary, sparks igniting between them as Emma discovered an alarming attraction to him she had never anticipated. The way he looked at her, a mixture of admiration and intensity, made the unspoken tension flourish. She would catch him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking, the walls around his heart beginning to chip away as he both challenged and appreciated her fierce independence. Yet, lurking at the fringes of her mind were the reminders of Ryan's charismatic smile, the allure of the life they had nearly shared. She felt caught between two worlds, unsure how to navigate this landscape where both men represented parts of her dreams, but also her fears. As Emma dipped into a growing pool of uncertainty, questioning whether she could allow herself to fall for Ethan, the stakes became more pronounced. Torn between the loyalty to the life they had built as actors in this grand charade and the undeniable feelings rising like the tide, she knew she was perched on the edge of an emotional precipice, dangerously close to a fall. Would she surrender to the thrill that Ethan offered, or would the whispers of Ryan's promises lure her back into the past? The whirlwind continued, drawing all three of them closer to a precipice where hearts would collide and decisions needed to be made. As the days rolled into weeks, the lines between deception and reality began to blur for Ethan and Emma, creating a complicated tapestry of emotions. They found themselves caught in an intricate dance that oscillated between the confines of their contractual engagement and the deeper connections that were slowly forming. Each high society event they attended illuminated their contrasting worlds, Ethan, with his polished demeanor and powerful family name, and Emma, radiating authenticity and resilience, capturing the essence of her humble beginnings as a struggling jewelry designer. Yet, it was during these glamorous events that Ethan began to notice the relentless scrutiny directed at Emma, the way the flashes of paparazzi cameras, usually reserved for him, honed in on her with a predatory eagerness that made his stomach churn. He found himself instinctively stepping between Emma and the relentless cameras, making sure that no harsh words from the press could pierce her growing confidence. On one such occasion, as they mingled in a room adorned with twinkling chandeliers and laughter that billowed like warm air, an aggressive journalist approached them, launching a barrage of invasive questions that struck at Emma's past. Sensing her discomfort, Ethan leaned closer and with a commanding tone, he said that anything regarding their relationship was a private matter, turning the journalist's attention away from Emma. The warmth radiating from their closeness settled into an unspoken understanding, creating a fragile yet cherished bond that both of them had not anticipated. It was within a quiet moment during a candlelit celebration that the true depths of their feelings began to surface. The elegant cafe, adorned with an air of intimacy, was a stark contrast to the frenzy of their public lives. The dim lighting painted shadows over their faces, and as Emma took a sip of her flavored tea, the flavors bursting on her tongue felt nearly euphoric. She glanced at Ethan, strikingly beautiful with the ambience softening his sharp features, and her heart raced not just from their proximity, but from the undeniable chemistry that pulsed through the air. He watched her, a mixture of admiration and an inexplicable protectiveness rising within him. In that moment, he thought about how Emma had brought color into his otherwise monochromatic world, making his pulse quicken in ways that were both exhilarating and terrifying. He leaned forward, his breath whispering against her cheek, and pressed his lips against hers in a fervent kiss that melted away all of their pretenses. Time stood still as their surroundings blurred into a haze, the clinking of glasses, the distant chatter of patrons faded into nothingness as they lost themselves in each other. It was a kiss born not out of obligation, but rather a realization that their connection ran deeper than any contract could encapsulate. Emma's mind raced as the kiss ignited a storm of emotions within her. She couldn't help but question the authenticity of their arrangement. Was the contract truly necessary, or had affection woven its way into their hearts despite set rules? The confusion washed over her like a wave, leaving her breathless and contemplative, caught in the afterglow of what had just transpired. Ethan's hand enveloped hers, their fingers interlacing comfortably, igniting sparks of hope within her that maybe, just maybe, they were meant to be more than mere actors in each other's lives. Later, as they shared laughter during their drive home, Parked inside the luxurious car that had become a second skin to them, Emma could see the familiar glimmer in Ethan's eyes. He was slowly shedding the layers of cold indifference he had wrapped around himself like armor. She questioned whether he, too, felt the changes churning quietly beneath the surface, questioning if he saw in her the same flickers of something deeper. But fear loomed at the edges of her thoughts as she wondered if their relationship, initially birthed from a businessman's selfish need, could truly evolve into something genuine. Despite the growing warmth between them, the gnawing fear of returning to her past, and the threat of Ryan resurfacing, loomed heavily over the budding romance. Though they were meant to suppress the emotional facets of their bond, each moment spent together sparked a new dimension to their relationship, leaving them teetering on the precipice of uncharted territory, somewhere between love and obligation, safety and risk. Emma's heart fluttered, grappling with the idea that perhaps love could flourish even in a marriage of convenience, but would they take that leap together, or would the shadows of their pasts consume them? As they navigated the murky waters of their evolving connection, it was a delicate balance, one that both desired to explore yet feared to embrace fully. The air inside the lavish Kim estate was thick with tension, palpable enough to cut through the anxiety that danced in Emma's chest. As she glided through the ornate halls, her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and dread. The elegance of the home, with its sparkling chandeliers and intricate ornamental designs, felt like a cruel mockery of her own rough upbringing in the orphanage. Just that morning, a whispered comment from a maid had stirred a storm within her. Madame Yuna had found out about her past, about the gritty struggles that had shaped her into the woman she was today. Emma could almost feel the icy glare of Ethan's mother, a hawk circling her prey, ready to swoop in for the kill. In this world of inherited wealth and status, Emma was acutely aware that she would always be an outsider, a mere footnote in the lives of the elite. Meanwhile, Ethan seemed oblivious to her inner turmoil, or perhaps he was simply unable to see beyond the facade he had constructed around himself. He had been acting distant, a stark contrast to the fleeting moments of warmth they shared, leaving her wondering if their contractual engagement was the only reason he kept her close. Just as Emma was lost in her thoughts, she stumbled upon Ryan, her ex-boyfriend, sitting in the plush living room, a predatory gleam in his eye. The moment their gazes met, the air crackled with unresolved history. He had come back into her life unannounced, and now, his presence felt like a storm closing in. Ryan's expression shifted from surprise to smug satisfaction as he presented her with the copy of the contract that had secured her place in Ethan's life. He smirked, throwing it on the table with a flourish and accusing her of swindling the heir for a free ride to success. "I never thought you'd be just another gold digger, Emma. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" His words sunk into her like a dagger, twisting with each breath. Emma's heart clenched at the betrayal woven into Ryan's voice, the hurtful echoes of their past flooding back. Just when she thought she could rise above the whispers of her upbringing, here she was again being reduced to a stereotype. "You have no idea what I've gone through," she shot back, her voice steely. Ryan, however, was relentless, unable to see beyond his own blinding arrogance, claiming that she had betrayed him for the flashy allure of wealth. It was a bitter irony that stung deeply. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, Ethan stood at the entrance, his fist clenched tightly as he listened to the bitter accusations. A rush of emotion surged through him: anger at Ryan for questioning Emma's integrity and fear at his own inability to bring the merest acknowledgement of his feelings to light. It was a twisted collision of past and present, of love lost and perhaps found, yet his resolve remained fortress-like. "This is not what it seems," he began, stepping forward as the atmosphere thickened with tension, but Emma's gaze shifted from him to Ryan, her mind swarming with confusion about where her loyalty lay. Torn between two worlds, one promising and one filled with the shadows of her history, she felt invisible. She could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on her, her social status rendering her disposable, unworthy. She could no longer stand there, caught between the two men, feeling like a pawn in their games. "I need space," she whispered, her voice shaky, but firm enough to assert her will. With every ounce of determination, she turned her back on both of them, driven by a mix of anger and despair. As she exited the room, the realization crashed over her that perhaps she had never truly belonged in the world Ethan inhabited, not among the glitzy parties and the gilded dreams. The shadows of her past were closing in, and as she walked away, she felt an unfamiliar emptiness settle into the deep recesses of her heart. Emma's feet led her outside the estate and into the cool night air, the distant twinkling lights of the city below a stark reminder of the dreams she so desperately wanted to grasp. Yet, the cruel whispers of doubt plagued her as she questioned if a love born out of mutual deception could ever truly thrive when grounded in such fragile beginnings. The weight of silence draped over her like a heavy cloak, and in a heartbeat, she felt the pull of two truths: that maybe she had once had a chance at love but now lay on the precipice of losing it all, spiraling into uncertainty as she bravely faced her future without either man's guiding light. With Emma gone, Ethan felt an emptiness creeping into the corners of his life, a hollow echo where her laughter had once filled the air. The grand halls of the Kim estate that had once felt like a fortress now seemed cold and lifeless, the expensive decor failing to provide the warmth that Emma brought with her vibrant spirit. He roamed the marble floors aimlessly, memories of her determination and fierce independence playing like a relentless film reel in his mind. He remembered how she had looked at him with those fiery eyes, refusing to be intimidated by the world around her, challenging his aloofness with her grit. It was a stark contrast to the people around him, and for the first time, he craved the authenticity that she embodied. Meanwhile, the whispers of betrayal grew ever louder as Ryan, emboldened by news of Emma's scandalous contract with Ethan, ignited a media firestorm, revealing their supposed arrangement to the public. The headlines blared, sensationalizing every detail, suggesting that Emma was nothing more than a schemer looking for her next sugar daddy, the words slicing through her hard-earned reputation like a knife through silk. Emma, who had worked tirelessly to carve out a stable existence for herself in the complex fabric of Seoul's elite, now faced the possibility of everything she had built unraveling in front of her very eyes as the rumors spread like wildfire across social media, each retweet echoing louder than the last. As the frenzy escalated, Madame Yuna seized the opportunity to take her own revenge, her eyes glinting with malice as she finally uncovered something that sent a shiver down her spine. Deep within the archives of family history floated the possibility that Emma could be tied to a long-buried family secret, something that had the potential to upend everything the Kims had built. She was certain of it, Emma's past might hold dangerous threads woven into the tapestry of the Kim legacy. Speaking to Chairman Kim in their lavish, dimly lit study, Madame Yuna emphasized that Emma was not just a fleeting distraction for Ethan but a significant threat to their family's standing, words that dripped with disdain as she outlined her plan to ensure Emma was vanquished for good. Fueled by desperation, Ethan, who felt powerless contentedly watching from his gilded cage, finally made the decision to take matters into his own hands. He stormed out of his house and strayed into the bustling streets of Seoul, ignoring the questions of his loyal staff as he searched for Emma, a frantic urgency driving him to locate the one person who had transformed his carefully curated world. He could almost hear her voice in the wind, a soft yet determined whisper that reminded him of what he stood to lose, and just as he reached the edge of despair, he caught sight of a familiar shimmer from the boutique he had visited with her, a small jewelry store packed with a rainbow of colors, ethereal designs, and the unmistakable spark of her passion. Determined, he pushed the glass door open, the familiar chime signaling his entrance, and a wave of nostalgia washed over him as memories of their shared moments flooded back. He hesitated for a brief second, the sight of her empty workstation bringing him to the brink of despair. He knew that he had to find her. Each second grew heavier as he thought of the chaos surrounding her, the scandal that seemed to swirl with each passing moment like a dark cloud threatening to engulf her. He clutched his phone tightly, convinced that the only way to right his wrongs was to confront both Ryan and his mother. As he stepped out into the evening haze, he made a vow to seek out Emma, not just to protect her, but to prove that their bond was real, no matter how volatile the circumstances surrounding them had become. The hum of the city surged around him, but all he could feel was the urgent beat of his heart echoing in his chest, a rhythm that called out for the brave woman he'd come to admire more than he ever anticipated. Emma needed him, and for the first time, he was ready to prove that he would fight for her, no matter the cost. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the sprawling city of Seoul, Ethan Kim found himself standing resolutely in the vast, opulent meeting room of the Kim Group. The air was thick with tension as his mother, Madame Yuna Kim, glared at him from across the polished mahogany table, her perfectly manicured fingers tapping impatiently. Chairman Kim, with his imposing presence and unwavering gaze, sat at the head of the table, an embodiment of the family's relentless expectations. Ethan's heart raced as he prepared to confront them about the upheaval in his life caused by their relentless ambition and his mother's disdain for Emma. He could feel the stubborn weight of his social duty pressing down on him, a shackle he had worn for far too long. "I won't be a pawn in your games anymore," he stated firmly, the defiance in his voice surprising even himself. The words felt liberating, echoing through the luxurious walls that had always felt more like a prison than a home. Madame Yuna narrowed her eyes, her expression a mix of shock and anger, while Chairman Kim remained stoic, as if gauging the impact of his grandson's unexpected rebellion. Ethan remembered Emma, her fiery spirit and determination, and how she had challenged him to look beyond the gilded cage of his upbringing. It was Emma who had bravely shown him the beauty of vulnerability and honesty in a world where both were seen as weaknesses. He continued, expressing how Emma was the only person who had ever truly seen him for who he was, beyond his wealth and status, and how he would fight for her against anyone who dared to belittle her. Meanwhile, in a quaint but bustling coffee shop adorned with her handcrafted jewelry displayed elegantly on the walls, Emma Choi sat surrounded by the delicate scent of freshly ground coffee beans and the soft melody of jazz playing in the background. She was focused on the final touches for her upcoming brand launch, her hands deftly arranging necklaces that sparkled like stars in the evening sky. Yet, her heart felt heavy with the weight of the past and the haunting thoughts of Ethan and their broken contract. She was determined to forge her own path, convinced that she was done with his world, even if the ache of their shared moments clung to her like the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers. Just as she finished adjusting a delicate chain, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirror, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw Ethan standing behind her, their laughter echoing in her ears. The thought caused a pang of longing to stir deep within her, but she suppressed it, pulling herself back to her reality. Ethan, with every ounce of courage he possessed, decided to take a stand, realizing that the stakes were higher than the superficial expectations placed on him by his family. He envisioned Emma's smile, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of her dreams, and he knew he couldn't let her slip away. As he left the meeting room, his heart raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. He had made a decision that would alter the course of both their lives forever. With determination, he devised a plan, a grand gesture that would hopefully show Emma just how much she meant to him, a chance to make things right. Meanwhile, Emma was abruptly startled from her thoughts as her phone buzzed with an incoming text. Glancing down, she saw a simple message from Ethan. "I need to see you. There's something important I want to share." Her heart fluttered, uncertainty creeping in. Reluctantly, she typed back, agreeing to meet him at a serene park adorned with cherry blossoms, a place where they had shared their first genuine connection. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in breathtaking hues of orange and pink, Ethan arrived at the park, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. He scanned the area nervously, hoping to catch a glimpse of Emma. When he spotted her standing under the blooming cherry blossom tree, the soft petals falling around her like confetti, he felt an overwhelming rush of emotions, a cocktail of regret, longing, and the determination to fight for their love. Emma's breath caught as she saw him approach, looking more determined than ever before. Ethan stepped forward, ready to pour out his heart and demonstrate that, even if their relationship had started under false pretenses, the bond they had forged had blossomed into something genuine and beautiful. In that moment, they were two souls intertwined in a world that had once threatened to tear them apart. As they stood before each other, surrounded by a breathtaking display of nature, the air charged with unspoken words and promises that begged to be made. The atmosphere in the grand ballroom was electric, sparkling with anticipation as Emma Choi stood at the center of her dreams about to unfold. The walls were adorned with her exquisite jewelry, each piece reflecting her journey and struggles as a designer. The soft glow of chandeliers cast a warm light over the sea of eager faces, from influential investors to curious media personalities, all gathered to witness the birth of what she hoped would be her legacy. Yet, beneath the surface of her excitement, a torrent of anxiety churned within her. This was everything she had ever wanted, but the memory of Ethan's possessive declarations and their complicated past loomed heavily in her mind. As she prepared to give her speech, her heart raced not only for the success of her brand but also because of the absence of Ethan Kim, the man who had been both her tormentor and savior. Just when Emma thought she had lost him for good, the doors swung open with a dramatic flourish, and there he was, Ethan, looking dapper and determined. Dressed in a sleek black suit that emphasized his tall, commanding presence, he cut through the crowd with piercing eyes that instantly sought her out. When their gazes locked, the world around them faded, and all she could sense was the magnetic pull that had always connected them, despite the turmoil. As Ethan approached the stage, murmurs rippled through the audience. The click of cameras and the chatter of curious whispers filled the air, resonating loudly against Emma's now rapid heartbeat. Ethan reached her side, the warmth of his body close enough that she could feel the heat radiate off him even amid the crowd. With a confident smile that held a hint of vulnerability, he took a moment before speaking, his voice steady, yet laced with emotion as he addressed the audience. He proudly proclaimed that he had witnessed Emma's relentless spirit and passion, and this brand was not just a showcase of jewelry, it was a testament to her resilience and brilliance. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she felt a mix of pride and affection swell within her. But then, in a move that took everyone by surprise, Ethan turned his gaze to her and broke the unspoken barrier between them. In a voice fortified with sincerity, he confessed that being with Emma had been more than just a contract for him, it had become a journey of self-discovery, of finding someone who viewed him as more than just the heir to a vast empire. He revealed that the time spent together, filled with laughter, heartache, and growing intimacy, had made him realize just how deeply he cared for her, a love that transcended their initial agreement. With every word he spoke, the tension in Emma's chest began to ease, yet doubt crept in as memories of his earlier hesitance flooded her mind. Then, with an impulsive yet heart-stopping gesture, Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the crumpled contract that had dictated their lives for months. He tore it in half right before the cameras, flashing lights, the sound of paper ripping echoing in the ballroom, signifying the end of a facade. He boldly declared that he wanted her for real, free of conditions, deadlines, and expectations, simply because he believed in the possibility of their love. For a moment, the room fell silent, the air thick with anticipation as all eyes turned to Emma, waiting for her response. Amid the sea of onlookers, Emma's mind raced, recalling the pain of betrayal and uncertainty that had shadowed her heart. The hurt intertwining with her longing brought tears to her eyes as she hesitated, her gaze fixated on the remnants of the contract in Ethan's hands. The memory of their previous complications, their emotional barriers, and the shadow of Ryan's reappearance all played in her mind like a chaotic film reel, leaving her uncertain, yet she felt a flicker of understanding in her heart. Ethan was willing to bare his soul, to fight for her against the odds, and in that moment, she realized the choice was hers, to remain ensnared in fear or to step into the thriving light of love that beckoned her forward. Finally, gathering her courage, Emma stepped forward, her voice trembling with a mixture of vulnerability and fierce determination. She looked into Ethan's eyes and declared that she was willing to put aside her fears. She wanted him, too, not because of contractual obligations, but because they had forged something profoundly real through their trials. As his eyes illuminated with hope and tenderness, the ballroom erupted into applause, not just for the launch of a jewelry line but for the unveiling of a love story that defied expectations. In that moment, surrounded by the brilliance of her creations and the man who had captured her heart, Emma felt the weight lift off her shoulders, paving the path forward into a future where love, honesty, and adventure awaited them both. Emma and Ethan's wedding day dawned bright and clear, a vibrant blue sky stretching over Seoul as if celebrating their love with the world. The venue was breathtaking, adorned with delicate floral arrangements that showcased Emma's exquisite jewelry, each piece telling a story of struggle and triumph. As she stood there, adorned in a stunning gown that seemed woven from whispers of her dreams, her heart raced with a blend of excitement and disbelief. She looked over at Ethan, dressed sharply in a tailored suit, his eyes brimming with warmth and adoration that made her realize just how far they had come. With every beat of her heart, memories of misunderstandings, late-night conversations, and laughter echoed in her mind. Madame Yuna, standing reluctantly at the back, watched, her face a mask of resignation as she acknowledged that Emma had not just won her son's heart but had also brought him to a place of genuine happiness. As the vows were exchanged, Emma's voice trembled slightly, filled with the weight of every experience they had shared. She spoke about love that blossomed unexpectedly, forged in the fires of societal pressures, and cemented by the desire for authenticity that neither could deny. Ethan, too, spoke passionately, referring to Emma as the light that had illuminated the darkest corners of his heart, the one who had seen past the cold facade to the man he truly was. Their promises hung between them like the diamond rings they exchanged, a symbol of their journey from a contractual agreement to a partnership built on mutual respect and deep affection. Just as they sealed their vows with a kiss, a flurry of applause erupted from their guests, echoing promises of love and support, filling the air with a celebratory energy. As the crowd began to disperse for the reception, Ethan leaned closer to Emma, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. He whispered about their future, his voice tinged with both humor and sincerity, teasing her about their first adventure as a married couple, hinting at surprises yet to come. Emma couldn't help but laugh, imagining all the thrilling escapades they would embark on together, caught between the worlds of glitz and charm that had initially brought them together. Just as they stepped into the reception hall, a hush fell over the guests. Ethan's grandfather, Chairman Kim, raised his glass, a smile breaking across his usually stoic face, declaring Emma more than worthy of the Kim family name, a sentiment that made both Emma and Ethan beam with pride. The atmosphere turned electric as someone clinked a glass and called for a toast, but just then, the doors burst open. All eyes turned in shock as Ryan Park stepped forward, an unexpected guest with an air of determination. The words he spoke held a heavy weight, one that had the power to shift the tides of their story again. In that moment, Emma felt a whirlwind of emotions, torn between her happily ever after and the unresolved feelings that lingered from her past. The tension held the potential for new beginnings or unforeseen challenges, as the love that had been built on a contract began to feel like an adventure they hadn't anticipated. As Ryan opened his mouth to speak, the scene shifted, filled with uncertainty yet brimming with excitement for what lay ahead. Emma's heart raced, knowing that the chapters of her life were anything but conventional. With Ethan at her side, she was ready to face whatever came next, with the thrilling knowledge that life, much like her jewelry, was a testament to resilience and unforeseen beauty. The screen faded to black, yet the lingering question hung in the air: what would come next in this tale of love, power, and the pursuit of dreams? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to Happiness of Love. That way, you won't miss any of our heartfelt romances. See you in the next love story.